American citizens charged with aiding and in some cases joining an al-Qaeda ally in the Horn of Africa. The Justice Department today took the wraps off a series of indictments against 14 people accused of helping a Somali group, which is viewed by authorities as extremely dangerous. Let's go straight to our Homeland Security correspondent, Jean Meserve. She's got the details. Jean?
Wolf, a new State Department report describes al-shabaab as one of al-Qaeda's most active affiliates. And today, indictments were unsealed against 14 people who the government alleges are part of a pipeline funneling funds and fighters to the group. Al-Shabaab, a U.S.-designated terror group on the battlefield in Somalia. Among its commanders, U.S. officials say, two of the indicted men, Jihad Sirwan Mustafa and Omar Hamami, both U.S. citizens. Hamami has allegedly become a propagandist as well, appearing in jihadi videos.
So the only reason we're staying here, away from our families, away from the cities, away from, ICE, candy bars, all these other things, is because we're waiting to meet with the enemy.
An expert on radicalization calls Hamami a jihadi rock star, a bridge between two cultures.
Mortar by mortar, shell by shell, only gonna stop when I send them to hell.
Someone who has feet in both worlds fuses his jihadi narrative with American culture and rap music. This isn't just someone reciting dusty old texts. This is someone Americans see glimmers of themselves in.
Born and raised in Alabama, Hamami was raised a Baptist but converted to Islam as a young man. His mother tells CNN she hasn't talked to him since 2007 and she doesn't know if he is guilty as accused. Also unsealed, indictments of 10 men from Minnesota's Somali community. All are believed to be overseas training or fighting with al-Shabaab. The government hopes the indictments send a message.
If you choose this route, you can expect to find yourself in a United States jail cell or to be a casualty on a Somali battlefield.
But the indictments don't reflect the breadth of the homegrown terror problem. Recently, 4 young men from New Jersey, Virginia, and Chicago have been arrested for allegedly trying to travel to Somalia to fight. Also announced today the arrest in Minnesota of 2 women who the government alleged raised money for al-Shabaab, sometimes through teleconferences. In some instances, the government says they misled donors, telling them their money would help the poor, not wage war. Wolf, back to you.
All right, Gene, thank you. Let's take a closer look at al-Shabaab. It's believed to number several thousand fighters and controls much of the southern and central parts of Somalia. Al-Shabaab has been waging an insurgency against Somalia's government since 2006. In recent months, al-Shabaab's fighters have been battling for control of the capital, Mogadishu. Al-Shabaab, by the way, means youth in Arabic, and the group has attracted hundreds of young recruits from around the globe, including from right here in the United States. Just last month, al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for 2 bomb blasts in neighboring Uganda that killed 76 people who were simply watching the World Cup soccer games on television. Let's dig deeper now with our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr and our CNN National Security contributor Fran Townsend. We should note Fran is also an external board advisor to both the CIA and the Homeland Security Department. Fran, these guys who were indicted today, most of them really grew up since 9/11, in these years since 9/11, and that's pretty disturbing that they grow up here in the United States and they take these steps.
It is disturbing, Wolf, but what does this remind us of? Remember al-Awlaki, who was also born in the U.S., goes to Yemen and then preaches and recruits Americans and those around the world, like the Christmas Day bomber, like the Fort Hood shooter. This is what we're seeing in Hamami, where he inspires others, he tries to recruit, and then there are those inside the United States, young, as you point out. It's interesting, Wolf, because that means that they don't have any obvious ties to things like al-Qaeda and al-Shabaab, which makes it more difficult. I'd say that the ability of the FBI and investigators to identify these guys before they leave the country or after they've left by virtue of their contacts is progress. It's progress that we're able to identify them before they manifest the threat here in the U.S.
What is the U.S. military, Barbara, doing in Somalia, if anything, against these terrorists?
This is one of the most highly classified, secretive efforts by the U.S. military. They have gone into Somalia several times before to go after al-Qaeda targets, but now we're talking about homegrown, if you will, Somali terrorism groups. The big concern is the foreign fighters that are there. The intelligence community now estimates up to 200. from Iraq, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. They are able to go into Somalia where there's no functioning government, set up training camps, work with the al-shabaab, teach them how to do suicide bombers, and possibly export their terrorist activities even back to the United States. That's why there's so much concern for the United States. That's why this matters.
Because we all know the U.S. now has almost 100,000 troops in Afghanistan going after al-Qaeda and Taliban insurgents, al-Qaeda terrorists. Is the U.S. going to start deploying troops to go after these targets in Somalia or Yemen, for example, where there are plenty of them as well?
Well, I think what you'll see, Wolf, is the United States military, as opposed to deploying troops to actually fight and take direct action, as they call it, what they do is they go in and
direct actions, that's targeted killings.
And that's their ability to go in and act for themselves on their own. I think what you see, like in Yemen, is where they try to identify those who would be allies and support their activities inside, where we're not at war, but where we see a manifest threat against U.S. interests.
But the difference in Somalia, of course, is there's no functioning government to work with.
That's exactly
right. In Yemen, there is.
There is. I mean,
not a great government, but a government.
Right. I mean, let's be clear. In Somalia, there's really not a functioning government. That means the CIA or military commandos have done what they've done. They go in the dead of night. There have been drone strikes. There have been gunship strikes. And then they will land in helicopters, get on the ground, do whatever they do, and get out as fast as possible.
They can move ships up to the coast, whether of Yemen or of Somalia, and launch drones, for example, to try to kill these people.
That's right. But what Barbara describes is the most dangerous type and risky type of military action you can take. Remember, and during the Clinton administration, Black Hawk Down, where you have a group go in, get caught, and you have soldiers killed. And so this becomes a very dangerous, risky operation.
This is the difference of any other country. Somalia, the specter of Black Hawk Down, all these years later, you say to Somalia, to a 3-star general in the Pentagon, and they still shudder.
All right.